And his father is a great Odissi dancer. And the son has seen his father do some dances and mudras and things. And the son can't walk yet, but he tries to dance. What is the value of that? It's really just a joke. Huh? But there is a value if it brings a smile to the face of his father. So we can bring some pleasure to the senior devotees and we'll feel ourselves successful. We'd like to speak something a little philosophical. My Guru Maharaj trained me like that. In the Padma Purana it's described, Nakarma bandhanam janma vaishnavanam chavidyate vishnanucharatvam hi moksham ahur manisinaha. That don't think the appearance or the disappearance of the Vaishnavas is an ordinary thing. They're not bound. Nakarma bandhanam janma. They're not bound by birth and by death. Don't think like that. Learned persons have described Vishnu anucharam hi moksham ahura manisina. That service to the Lord is real liberation. And this is what Srila Prabhupada did. I remember listening to, maybe Krishna Kun can remind me, I'm not sure, we listen to a lot of Prabhupada memories. That's one of our favorite things to do. And we were listening to one memory recently. I don't remember who it was from. But he made such a beautiful point. He said that someone invited him to go and meet Srila Prabhupada. And he was kind of thinking, yeah, right, I've seen so many of these gurus, Maharajaji, and this one and that one, Rajneesh, and so many different persons at that time. Here's another guru. And he went and he saw Srila Prabhupada, and as you might imagine, there was a transformation in his heart upon seeing Srila Prabhupada. And when he left, he went home, I think of what it was, and his little boy asked him something like, what was so special about this guru? And then he was thinking to himself, all the other gurus, their movement is named after them. Maharajaji and Rajneesh and this one and that one. But this sadhu, his movement is named after God, the Hare Krsna movement. And that's what's so special about Srila Prabhupada. In the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, in the Krishna Janmakanda, is a nice couple of verses. Vani Surya Bhamanebhyas Tejihan Vaishnavasada Na Vicharana Bhogascha Vaishnavanam Swakarmanam Likitam Samnikotum Yam Kuru Prashnam Brihaspatim. The Vaishnavas are always more powerful than Agni Dev, Surya, and the Brahmins. Vaishnavas do not have to suffer the reaction of fruitive activities or concern themselves with analyzing these activities. This is stated in the Kutumi branch of the Samaveda. You can ask Brihaspati for confirmation of this. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is a translation of his commentary. The Vaishnava devotees of the Supreme Lord are not like ordinary human beings who are forced to enjoy the results of their karma. This fact is stated in many places in the scriptures. The Vaishnavas are a particular type of incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And therefore they are not enjoyers of the fruits of karma. By the will of the Lord, they appear for the benefit of the people of the world, just like an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So this is the Hare Krishna movement. But you know, prior, we give Srila Prabhupada credit, of course, for establishing this movement. But did you know that prior to Srila Prabhupada's arrival in America, there were two other Gaudiya Vaishnavas who came there. One was Mahanam Brata Brahmachari in the 1930s, and the other, do you remember his name? Premananda Bharti. I thought you would have read. Thank you for it. They both came and they preached Gaudiya Vaishnavism. In fact, Mahanam Brata Brahmachari, I think he gave lectures in like 100 or 200 different universities. Amazing. I found some articles in Bengali from him in some old magazines. And amazing that he did like that. He was preaching very nice Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. But how many devotees came from it? How many people know about these personalities, Brahmananda Bharati, or Mahanamrita Brahmachari. They're just little names in history. But Srila Prabhupada, what he did, when we glorify Dhruva Maharaj, when we glorify Prahlad Maharaj, what do we think of? We think of Lord Vishnu appearing for Dhruva. We think of Lord Nrsingadev coming for Prahlad Maharaj. When the devotee comes, it indicates the Lord is coming very soon, because you can't separate the two. And so when Srila Prabhupada came to America, it heralded the beginning of the Hare Krishna movement. Prabhupada's coming. And Prabhupada came, he spoke about 7 purposes to this movement that he came to give. Sometimes devotees, we have kind of a love-hate relationship with the society, because it's our life. As we were speaking with Kunja Basani Mataji the other day, especially when the devotees first joined ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, that's all there was. If you weren't in the movement, you were in Maya. There was only 2 options. But things have progressed a little bit more today. And we understand, of course, that it's not that Srila Prabhupada came to make a corporate society. Srila Prabhupada came to give Krishna to everyone. And he expressed that in so many different ways throughout his teachings, his lectures, his writings, his letters. And I'd like to just read to you a few things that he said. This is his 7 purposes for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Number 1, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Prabhupada wanted to teach the people, to educate them in techniques of spiritual life. I've known something about Buddhism, I knew something about Christianity before I came in contact with this movement, but there's some techniques in those traditions, but not very much. There's not much of an understanding, but Srila Prabhupada came and gave us the practice of japa. Srila Prabhupada gave us the practice of archana, the practice of offering bhoga to the deities, the practice of svadhyaya, reciting Vedic literatures. He gave us Srimad Bhagavatam. He gave us so many practices. And this was his purpose. He wanted to give us these techniques. And the purpose for that was to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. What is that real unity and peace? We should focus on it. We should try to understand Srila Prabhupada's purpose. Prabhupada in the Lilamrita, Satsvarup Maharaj quotes Srila Prabhupada that when he came once to a GBC meeting, Prabhupada showed up there and he stepped in and everybody offered obeisances, and then Prabhupada made a proclamation. And he said, this chanting should go on. Instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and no solutions, there should be chanting. And Srila Prabhupada in that way established the real purpose of this movement. And it's not that we're hippies and we don't have management, we don't have buildings, and we don't have accounting and things like we do those things. But all of those things are a box to contain the gift of Krishna Bhakti, the gift of Krishna Nam. And we want to preserve that so that we can please Srila Prabhupada. And this is the process to achieve real unity and peace in the world. And sometimes even I see devotees, they forget that. And inadvertently, indirectly, they make a declaration. Chanting Hare Krishna is okay. But if you're really high-tech, if you're really a very high devotee, then you're going to take to criticizing everybody else on the internet, because that's the real solution. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. And that was not Srila Prabhupada's purpose. That was not what he came to establish. Number 2, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna, as it is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Number 3, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity. Thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. This is Srila Prabhupada's purpose, that we can make friends, that we can establish a very intimate, loving society. And we'll speak more about that as we go along. Number 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 5, to erect from the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. Well, that's Radhadesh, that's New Vrindavan, that's New Mayapur, that's so many temples. Yeah, and we'll speak more about that too. Number 6, to bring the members closer together, again he says, for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. Number 7, final point, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So I'd like to read you now a few statements from Srila Prabhupada that I think, from my perspective, because whenever we speak about another person, we can only do it from our perspective. And it's a problem when we try to think that my perspective is the perspective. But it's not, right? Your mother calls you boo-boo. But not all your friends call you that. Your girlfriend, maybe your wife, I don't know, maybe both, call you sweetie. And your teacher calls you nonsense rascal. And your friends call you bye or buddy. You're the same person, but we have so many different persons will see us all in different ways. So this is my humble offering, my humble perspective of Srila Prabhupada's vision, and I hope that Jayagopal Prabhu and Vasudha Prabhu and others may correct me at the end and add a few words of your own. So let's read a little something from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada visited Hawaii on Ocala, the Big Island, in the 25th of May, 1975. And in his talk there, Srila Prabhupada said the following: so Vrindavan is also forest. So create Vrindavan. This is Srila Prabhupada's instruction. Create Vrindavan. Keep Krishna here. Keep the cows here. Keep the calves here. Produce your own food. It will become Vrindavan. This is Vrindavan. Where there is Krishna, where there are cows, where there is agriculture, that is Vrindavan. This was Srila Prabhupada's purpose. Srila Prabhupada's a Brijbasi. Some people think he left Vrindavan, but he never left Vrindavan. He brought Vrindavan with him, and he established Vrindavan all over the world. And he wanted his disciples and followers to continue to create Vrindavan villages, to make Vrindavan in this material world. Because Krishna is so fond of Vrindavan. In a lecture Prabhupada gave in Gita Nagari, on the 15th of July, 1976, Prabhupada said, Krishna is so fond of that Vrindavan village life, with his cowherd boys and cowherd girls, his gopis, Mother Yashoda, Father Nanda, and Upananda, uncles and big family, the cows and the calves, the trees, the Jamuna River. Krishna is satisfied in that life. So at least those who are Krishna conscious, they should be satisfied with simple life in the village. That is part of Krishna consciousness. But it does not mean that we shall avoid city life or town life. Not. Everything, every place is Krishna's place. Everywhere there should be Krishna consciousness. But if we keep ourselves within the village and properly organize, as Krishna personally showed us the example, he was personally taking care of the cows and calves. A little shout out here about the cows and calves. In the mood of what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, we want to create Vrindavan. And all the devotees love the cows, isn't it? And we all love drinking cow milk. But I found where we go to visit the cows, wherever we travel, but we also go to visit the gwalas, the people who take care of the cows. And quite often, I find that they're kind of lonely. They have some cows for association, but not many devotees go there. And so I was suggesting the other day to our local Gwalas, our cowherd people here, that they should put up some notice here, if Ekachakra Prabhu agrees, that there's service available in the Goshala. And you can come and feed the cows, you can come and walk with the cows, take them out to the pasture, you can bring them back, you can help clean them, you can brush them. You'll make good friends with cows if you brush them, I know it. You can help make some gur sweets for the cows so that when the tourists and people come, they have something to give to the cows. And if we do that, that simple activity will create community. It'll create community here. Because we should all deal with the cows, even though they're very big and they've got those horns and they kind of make us nervous as city boys, I know. But we can do this much. We can feed them. We can do something. And that'll bring together the community. So this is Srila Prabhupada's point. Krishna was personally taking care of the cows and calves. When he was a child, he was taking care of the calves. When he was grown up, he was taking care of the cows. Although he was a very rich man's son, Nanda Maharaj was a village king. Still, Krishna was working hard the whole day, going in the morning to the pasturing ground and coming back in the evening. Then he used to take his bath, change dress, and immediately go to sleep. This was Krishna's pastime. So we should follow his footsteps. So today I'd like to read you some different things from Srila Prabhupada about Vrindavan villages, but I'd also like to discuss with you, share with you some Vrindavan Leela and what a Vrindavan village means from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, from different descriptions of our acharyas, to help us to unpack what Srila Prabhupada means by Vrindavan. When Prabhupada says here that Krishna was taking care of the cows every day, you know, Krishna, as in his Vishnu form, he doesn't touch the earth. He floats above the earth. But when Krishna comes, in Dwarka, when Krishna's there, he wears shoes. He puts his feet on the ground. But in Vrindavan, Krishna takes off his shoes and he walks barefoot. And it distresses Mother Yashoda and the gopis. And sometimes they say, Krishna, please, you should wear some shoes. And Krishna, on one occasion, he replied to his mother. He said, Mata, we're Gwalas. We take care of the cows. How can I wear shoes if the cows don't have shoes? Now, if you make shoes for every single cow in Vrindavan, then I'll also wear shoes. But how can I have something the cows don't have? This is the mood of Vrindavan. It's not just a corporate thing that Srila Prabhupada came to establish. It's not just a business. There's that aspect of it. We're not hippies. But the most important aspect is to establish the mood of Vrindavan. And how do we do that? In a lecture that Prabhupada gave in Aligarh on the 9th of October, 1976, he said, a devotee, wherever he is, that is Vrindavan. That is Vrindavan. Tirtha kurvanti tirthani. A devotee, a pure devotee, can make any hell a tirtha, a holy place. That is devotee. Wherever there is Krishna, wherever there is a Radha Krishna temple, that is Vrindavan. That is Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he only went once to Vrindavan. Does it mean he was not in Vrindavan? This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, that the preaching must go on in hell and heaven. We should be very much expert and follow the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Simple instructions. Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Bolina Bolori Vadana Bori. Simply chant the holy names of the Lord. Mukunda Madhava Yadava. So what is this Vrindavan? In the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, in chapter 30, there's a description of the Prachetas. And an amazing thing happened to the Prachetas. Just that we can kind of relate to them. They were going to Mangal Artik and chanting their japa and doing Tulsi Puja, I think, and all these different things. But something very amazing happened to them one day. the Lord suddenly appeared before them. Pretty good. We hope to also have that happen someday. Huh? And at that time, Lord Vishnu, he spoke to the Prachetas. This is text 8 of chapter 30 of the 4th canto. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Varam Vrinidvam Bhadram Vo Yuyam Me Nipanandanaha Suradena Pritag Dharmas Tushtoham Saridena Vaha. The Prabhupada's translation and purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you." This is why he appeared. Came and said, "I'm here not because your japa was so powerful or because your Tulsi Puja. I came here because I'm so pleased with your friendship amongst yourselves." This is what Vishnu told the Prachetas. He said, all of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I'm so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. And now, I'm so pleased you can ask a benediction from me. This is the perfection of the Krishna conscious movement. When Radha Gopinath one day, they say, okay, I'm very pleased with everybody here. Now, what do you want? It may happen. Huh? Srila Prabhupada comments, since the sons of King Prachanabarishat were all united in Krishna consciousness, the Lord was very pleased with them. Each and every one of the sons of King Prachanabarishat was an individual soul. Doesn't mean they all merged or something, but they were united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. The unity, the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is real unity. In the material world, such unity is not possible. Very bluntly, it's not possible. And if we try to have unity, Prabhu, I know you're having some hard time, we'll go to a counselor, we'll go for this, we'll go for that, we'll have some mundane, we'll hug each other. After my Guru Maharaj left this world, it was a very difficult time. And there was quarrels and things going on with the devotees. And I remember the following year, there was a Vyas Puja program in Bhubaneswar. And it was a difficult time. There was so much quarrels and things. And one of the senior godbrothers stood up and he said, we shouldn't fight. He said, right now I want you to turn to the devotee next to you and give him a hug and tell him, I love you. I was standing next to one of my godbrothers who later took sannyas, and we kind of looked at each other and rolled our eyes, and we gave a hug and said, I love you. And it really didn't solve any problems. But it sounded good, right? It sounded really, really good. That's not the platform of unity. Just to say something from the lips, I love you, I want to be nice to you. That's not the platform. The platform of unity, Srila Prabhupada is saying here, is Krishna consciousness. They're united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. And in the material world, such unity is not possible. Even though people may officially unite, he says, they all have different interests. In the United Nations, for instance, all the nations have their particular national ambitions, and consequently, they cannot be united. Disunity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. There's only one goal, to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there's some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Those who are actually engaged, means you may not actually be engaged, but those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. Wow. Well, that's a good barometer, a good thermometer to see if we're really engaged in Krishna consciousness. If we're really Krishna consciousness, there won't be any disunity. Hari lila sutochara, pareshi satatam karya pritistavahara yata bhakti nanashini. The Sattva Tantra describes that we should learn how to love devotees. And we love them by coming together and practicing bhakti, by worshipping Radha Gopinath, by offering everything to them, by serving Srila Prabhupada, by coming together and doing kirtan, coming together and having Krishna Katha. And by doing that, we'll learn to love devotees. And yata bhakti nanashyati, your bhakti will be protected, you won't fall down. It's a verse from Sattva Tantra, very nice verse. Srila Prabhupada concludes his purport. He says, this unity and service makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotees as indicated in this verse. We can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Prachanabarishat. So this is the society of Krishna consciousness. And the devotees, they create the tirthas. And Prabhupada, previously he quoted this verse, tirtha kirtanti tirthani, a very famous verse. But there's another verse devotees are not so familiar with perhaps. It's also from the first canto. It's a little later in the 19th chapter. And it's Maharaj Parikshit is speaking to Sukadeva Goswami. Aho adyavayam brahman satsevya chatrabandavaha kripaya titi rupena bhavadbis tirthakakritaha. The fortunate King Parikshit said to Sukadeva Goswami, O Brahman, by your mercy only you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage. All by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy, we who are unworthy become eligible to serve the devotees. This is Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's a tirtha, but he's not an ordinary tirtha. He's a tirtha that creates other tirthas, who create other tirthas. And that's the purpose of this movement, to create Vrindavan villages, to change this world. But this movement is based on one quality, that it's a movement which is free from envy. Prabhupada's purport, Bhagavatam 5:13-11, he said, the struggle for existence, the attempt to counteract the onslaught of material nature creates enmity in society. And consequently, society is filled with envious people. One person is envious of another, and this is the way of the material world. But the Krishna consciousness movement aims at creating an atmosphere of non-envy. Of course, it's not possible for everyone to become Krishna conscious, but the Krishna consciousness movement can create an exemplary society wherein there is no envy. That's Vrindavan. That place where everyone works together, everyone takes care of the cows, everyone is united in service, even if there apparently are different opinions. They're still united because their desire is to serve Srila Prabhupada. Their desire is to serve Radha Gopinath. My service for the last 25 years or so has been to do research and compile different rare literatures and things, translations into magazines, Sri Krishna Kathamrita, Sri Krishna Kathamrita Bindu. And in doing that, I do something which is not always recommended. I meet sometimes with different Vaishnavas outside of the Krishna conscious movement. And one thing that I found amongst different sadhus in Orissa and Vrindavan and Navadvip, they appreciate, one thing they very much appreciate about ISKCON, they say, you people have Guru Bhakti. And we appreciate you people cooperating together for the pleasure of your Guru. They mark that. They don't always agree with us about other things. Sometimes it's difficult to go there because you might hear something negative. But they see that. And by behaving like that, as St. Francis once told his disciples, St. Francis of Assisi in Catholicism, he said, you should preach. And if necessary, use words. So by this cooperative movement, by cooperating together for Srila Prabhupada, we're preaching. And sometimes we might use words also. But sometimes it's hard to hear what somebody says because their actions are so loud. So this should be a society that's free from envy. That's Vrindavan. Vrindavan's a place where there's no envy. But sometimes it seems to appear. We'll speak about that. That envy has a place in the universal form of the Lord. Did you know that? It's described in the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, chapter 6, text 9. Parimokshasya hinsaya. That himsa, Prabhupada translates it as this, he says, the evacuating hole of the Lord is the place of envy. So, if you're an envious person, it means you are a, anyway. And there's no place for such persons. We want to establish Vrindavan. And what is Vrindavan? Srila Jiva Goswami describes in Gopal Champu, Yakalu purvam tadapatya samapatya abhavam nirvedya vedanaya chakya. That there's no envy there. Sometimes ladies, they're very good friends. And then one of them says, did you hear the good news? I married Bhakta Handsome. And her friends say, oh, that's really nice. I'm really happy because her friend also was hankering after Bhakta Handsome. And then later they get married and she becomes pregnant. Their friends say, oh, that's really nice that you're pregnant because they want to have a baby. That feeling is very, very powerful, very strong in ladies. But that's not the mood of Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami explains that the gopis in Vrindavan, they were feeling, just like yesterday, we spoke this verse also from Gopal Champu, spoken by Radharani, about three types of friends. The Sakha, Priya, and the Priya Sakha. Sakha is someone that you do things with. You play together. But the Priya is someone who understands your pain. And the Priya Sakha is someone who understands your pain and stays with you. That's Vrindavan. And the gopis in Vrindavan, the elderly gopis, when they saw the suffering that Mother Yashoda was going through, the hankering that she wanted a baby. She just wanted a child so badly. So what did the ladies in Vrindavan do? They gave up wearing their ornaments. They made a vow. We're not going to wear any earrings, any nose rings, any necklaces, any bangles, and Nupura ankle bells until Mother Yashoda has a baby. That's Vrindavan. That's a society free from envy. And Jiva Goswami goes on to explain that when those ladies heard the news, let's see, Samprati tu kinchit charana pravana tad apatya shravana matrena bridrita vivida sukha vikarasta. They became so full of happiness when they heard the news. Did you hear? Mother Yashoda is pregnant. So they all came running to see Mother Yashoda. And they put on their ornaments at that time while they were running there. And they all were dancing with great happiness. This is Vrindavan. And we should understand this Vrindavan. We should enter into this Vrindavan. We should establish this Vrindavan. But this Vrindavan is a place that's free from envy. Now, different pastimes in Braj, according to Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda, there's Nitya Lila and Naimittika Lila. And the Naimittika Lila, or occasional pastimes, represent, according to him, different obstacles on our journey toward our eternal home of Vrindavan. So we could put that in a little different way too, understanding that Srila Prabhupada's instruction was that we should create Vrindavan. So these are also obstacles for our society, for our community in creating Vrindavan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in Chaitanya Sikshamrita, he lists all these different obstacles. I'm going to speak just briefly about a few of them and how Srila Prabhupada spoke about them and how they relate to Srila Prabhupada's desire to create Vrindavan villages. Keshi Bada. Ami Bodo Bhakta O Acharya Abhiman. A Abhiman. Aishvarja Buddhi O Parti Vyahankara Bharjana. This is Keshi Bada, or destroying Keshi. The Keshi represents someone who has this attitude. Very simple Bengali. Ami Bodo Bhakta O Acharya A Abhiman. He has this attitude. You see, they gave me a garland in front of everybody. I'm a big devotee. Ami Bodo Bhakta. I'm sitting here and speaking Hare Krishna in front of all the senior devotees. Ami Bodo Bhakta. Oh, Acharya. Yes, very soon they're going to understand my position. Hey, Abhiman. This kind of attitude, it spoils Vrindavan. Keshi was an outsider, but he wanted to enter Vrindavan. What's wrong with wanting to enter Vrindavan? What's wrong with a demon wanting to enter Vrindavan? I ask you. I'm a demon who'd like to enter Vrindavan. I hope there may be some hope for me somewhere. But Keshi, why was Keshi rejected and killed by Krishna? How is it why was he such a problem? Because of his attitude. He had the attitude of entitlement, the attitude that I'm a big, big person. And the Bhagavatam describes that when Keshi entered into Braj, the word Keshi means hair also. And his hair was so big. His hair is his false ego. It was touching the sky. And as he came into Braj, he started making a loud noise. That's the Keshi demon. And this is what Keshi-like persons, how they behave when they try to enter into the Vrindavan community of Vaishnavas, which is so sweet. They come in, hey, don't you know, here I am. Give me some Mahaprasad. Give me a place to stay. And they have the attitude of entitlement. The attitude, Ami Bodo Bhakta O Acharya E Abhiman. They have this attitude, I'm a big, big person. And it disturbs everything. All the Brijbasis are there and they're saying, we were having such a wonderful time with Krishna. Who is this guy making all this noise? So what does Krishna do? Krishna puts his hand in Keshi's mouth. And not just any hand, he puts his left hand in Keshi's mouth. Now for those who are very advanced Hare Krishna devotees, you know the left hand has a special facility, special service. It's not the cleanest hand in the world. Krishna used his left hand to stick his hand in Keshi's mouth. And Keshi couldn't digest it. He knocked out Keshi's teeth. In other words, indicating, shut up. We don't want to hear from you. And then Krishna's hand expanded in Keshi's throat. And then the real substance of Keshi came out from the other end. And he passed stool and urine. That's the value of Keshi. That's the value of his big noise and coming in to the Vrindavan society of devotees. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish Vrindavan. We should think very deeply what that means. Srila Prabhupada writes in Nectar Devotion in chapter 3, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. They're an outsider, like Keshi. Or as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in his Navadidam Mahatmya, the Prodamaya energy of the Lord is there, and so some people, they're not actually in the movement. They're not actually in the Dham, they're on top of it. It looks like they're there, but they're actually not. And they may even be a big, big person. Ami Bodo Bhakta O Acharya E Abhiman, like Keshi. He looks like someone who's living there in Vrindavan. So we want to watch out for that attitude of entitlement. You should play Mridanga. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear about one devotee who had that attitude. And I'll sing this verse. You can chant Hare Krishna in response. Ani matra na bishakori, nahika nirnoy. Anyera bikshara stitir loyina nischay. Bolo. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's translation. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Anjalila, chapter 8, text 94. There was no certainty of where Ramachandra Puri would take his meal, for he would do so even uninvited. Nevertheless, he was very particular about keeping account of how others were taking their meals. And it created a big disturbance in that Vrindavan community in Jagannath Puri amongst the devotees, because Ramachandra Puri was an outsider, although it looked like he was an insider, and although he's a disciple of Madhavananda Puri. And significantly, when the devotees came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to complain, we got to do something about this Ramachandra Puri. He's too much. He criticizes everybody. And now he's criticizing you, they told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu said, hey, don't criticize him. He's the godbrother of my guru. And by doing so, Mahaprabhu taught us. And he tolerated the nonsense of Ramachandra Puri to teach us also. I mean, everybody here, I'm sure everything is just fine, and you never have to tolerate anything, right? But to teach us that just in case something happens, we should tolerate. As Srila Prabhupada was saying in the previous purport we were reading, we have this unity together for the sake of the pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna. So later on, this is in Adi Lila, chapter 17. It speaks about the nature of a Vaishnava, the nature of the Brijbasis. Eimata Vaishnava Kore Kichu Nama Giba Aya Chitti Britti Kimba Shaka Falataida Bolo Hare Krishna. Eimata Vaishnava Kore Kichu Nama Giba. The Vaishnavas don't ask for anything. Hey, Ekachakra Bulu, I'm a senior devotee, and I've been here for 2 weeks in the temple. I've memorized 3 verses of Bhagavad Gita. I'm almost an incarnation. You're not giving me enough respect. I should have a bigger room. I should have a special place. A Vaishnava doesn't ask for that. We're not coming here to get things from the movement. We're coming here to get the opportunity to give to Srila Prabhupada. Even, who was it in America? John F. Kennedy. He said, ask not what your country can give to you, but ask what you can give to your country. Famous statement from a mundane politician. But we can apply that in Krishna consciousness. We didn't come here to have a career. We didn't come here to have a nice, comfortable place. We should have the attitude, Chaitanya Charitamrita describes it, Aya Chitti Britti, that we accept whatever comes in a natural way. If they want us to give class, we'll give class. If they want us to be a manager and serve the Vaishnavas by being a manager, then a Vaishnava accepts that. And if nobody appreciates me, that's fine. I'll just peel potatoes. I'll paint the walls. I'll do some quiet service. And as my Guru Maharaj commented, we mentioned, I think yesterday, he told us once, he said, look out for the backbenchers. The devotees who are painting the walls, and peeling the potatoes and washing the pots. Look out for them. Those are the very special devotees. I'm sorry, we're not trying to give anybody a hard time. So this is the nature of the Vaishnavas. Whereas Ramachandra Puri was always very eager to be invited to get prasadam everywhere, and he was always very demanding. He would go to people's homes and say, this is your lucky day. Here I am. Come to bless you. And you can feed me and get so much benefit because I'm a sadhu. I'm a senior devotee. That's not the mood of Vrindavan. That's the mood of Keshi. And when someone enters into the Vrindavan society with that kind of mood, it spoils everything. But don't worry. If we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna will knock out that person's teeth. And we'll see the real value of their words. It'll come out the other end. And they'll become purified, as Keshi was. There's hope for all of us. Another pastime in Braj, the 10th obstacle on our journey to Vrindavan is Kalia Damana Leela, which is also a very significant pastime when we want to contemplate what it means to serve Srila Prabhupada, to fulfill his desire to establish Vrindavan villages. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Chaitanya Siksamrita comments on Kalia Damana. He says, Abhiman Kalata Paripakarita Kurata Jive Doya Sunyata Durikarana. Abhimana means this mentality, this abhimana. I'm a very big, important person. Kalata, he's very wicked. Parapakarita, he's someone who endeavors to hurt other people. Once, Krishna Karunai asked a great saint, disciple Srila Prabhupada, named Radhagovinda Maharaj, in Vrindavan. He said, Maharaj, what can we do to stay in Vrindavan? And he gets such a beautiful answer. He said, if you want to live in Vrindavan, don't hurt the heart of anyone. It's a very difficult thing. We don't want to hurt the heart of any Vaishnavas. We don't want to act in a way which will make them envious of us or upset with us. We want to try to please everyone. And that's Vrindavan, when we create such an atmosphere like that. But Kalia, his attitude is parapakarita. He wants to hurt others. Krurita, he's very cruel. Jive doya sunyata durikarana. Jiva doya sunyata, he has no compassion for other living entities. Durikarana means to remove it. Kalia has to be driven out. In Krishna Samhita, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes Kriratma Kalia, that Kalia is a personification of envy, of wickedness. Kriratma Kalia. And he says that Sarpa Salilam Chid Dravatmakam, that he polluted the waters of the Jamuna. What is the Jamuna? In Harivamsa Purana, in the 11th canto, it's described there that Chiva Jalasaya. Chiva Jalasaya, the Jamuna is the life of Vrindavan. It's the health, it's the thing which gives life to Vrindavan. Water is life. The Jamuna River gives life to all of Vrindavan. And the Jamuna gives life to all of Vrindavan because she gives bhakti. She's bhakti pradata, the giver of bhakti. She loves Krishna so much. Kavi Karnapur, in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, describes Kalia in a very interesting way in connection with Jamuna. He says, Yamunaya Hridrogaha. That the Kalia was like a heart disease in the Jamuna. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives these explanations, and some of you might be thinking, well, that's a little far out. I've read some other commentaries, and I don't see these descriptions given of these different demons in the commentaries. But Bhaktivinoda is speaking in such an empowered, brilliant way. The very word Kalia, what does Kalia mean? Kali, iya, iti Kalia. That there's two words put together, Kala and iya. And what does the suffix iya mean? We have the word Gaudiya. What does the word Gaudiya mean? It means someone who belongs to Gaudadesh, or someone who belongs to the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Iya means someone who belongs to, or iya means someone who has the quality of that thing. So the word Kala has a number of different meanings. Kala means black. One of Jagannath's names in Orissa, in Puri, is Kalia, the black one. So Kala means black. Kala also is a kind of black poisonous snake. Kala also is a word for the night. Kala also is a word for iron. And Kala is also a word for abuse, censor, defamation, criticism. And this is the business of Kalia. He comes and he poisons the heart of Vrindavan. And what is that poison? It's the poison of criticism, the poison of harsh words to other persons. And therefore, we want to have Kalia Damana. Damana means to overpower or to tame, to control. And Kalia, where does he live? He lives in Kalia Hrada. And what does Hrada mean? Hrada, it means a deep lake or a pond. It comes from the same bij dhatu as Hrida, or the heart. So this is the heart. The Jamuna is the heart. And if Kalia is there in our heart, and we're criticizing other persons, then we're going to poison Srila Prabhupada's Vrindavan. We'll spoil everything. So it's a long, I like speaking Kalia Damana Leela. Usually we do it, take about 1 week. 2 hours for each session. It's such a wonderful subject. In Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami gives some very fascinating points about Kalia Damana Leela. He says that Krishna started off that morning, Vina Ramena, without Balaram. Acharyas described it as his birthday, so he didn't go. There's some other purports that can be given to that too. It's another long discussion, why Vina Ramena without Balaram. But that morning, Krishna was going behind all the boys. That morning, I should preface it with this comment, that Mother Yashoda had called Krishna over, and she said, Krishna, I know you, you're very restless, and you do very naughty things. So I'm telling you now, giving instruction, you can go anywhere you want in Vrindavan. Only one place you're not allowed to go. Kalia Hrada, the place of Kalia. You understand? Krishna, yes, Mata, I understand. And so then Balaram came to him and he said, look, Krishna, I know you. He said, okay, you may go there, but don't get in the water, okay? Krishna said, yes, yes. So that morning, Krishna was hanging a little behind the boys and the calves, and the calves had gone ahead. And they were very thirsty. It was a very hot day, and they saw some green grass in the distance, and they went there and started eating, and then they drank the water from that Kalia Hrada, and then suddenly all the calves fell over dead. And then came the boys, playing their bugles and flutes and different instruments and singing and dancing and laughing, and they came upon this most horrible sight. All the cows are laying there dead. And then what did the boys do? What would you do in such a situation like that? What did they do? They drank the water. Would you do that? Would you drink that water? No. Why did they drink that water? Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Vaishnava Toshin explains that they wanted to commit suicide because they felt we failed. Our life is to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, and Krishna loves the cows, and we didn't take care of them. Under our watch, the cows had died, so better that we drink this poisonous water and we die. And the boys drank the water and they fell over dead. And then Krishna came, playing on his flute and dancing and laughing. And then he saw this most horrible situation. And Krishna, Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna thought to himself, what am I going to do? How can I go back to the mothers of my friends and tell them that their boys are dead because of my whimsical nature? What can I do? And Jiva Goswami describes a very beautiful thing. Tatascha vipratisara saranasara druta vidruta tara chetasaha. How did Krishna bring them back to life? Krishna, his feelings of love for those boys and those cows came from his heart through the doorway of his eyes in the form of tears. Krishna began to cry. And when his tears fell on the bodies of the boys and the cows, it brought them back to life. That's Krishna, that's Vrindavan. And then Jiva Goswami explains that he brought them back to life one at a time with his tears. Why not as a group? Because it was a very wonderful, special exchange. Krishna would bring them back to life, and the boy, Krishna, I died, and you brought me back to life. And Krishna would cry, and the boy would cry, and they would embrace each other, crying. And then Krishna would go to the next boy and repeat the same thing over and over again. And then he went to the cows, and he brought them back to life in the same way. And the cows got up, and they're also feeling so much love and gratitude to Krishna for bringing them back to life. The cows began, and they all began to lick the body of Krishna in a very, very ecstatic way. This is Vrindavan. Keshi, Kalia has no place in Vrindavan. So we want to understand how to behave, how to establish this Vrindavan. Now there's a very famous letter, which I think most of you, especially senior devotees, are very familiar with, so please excuse me. This is a letter that Prabhupada wrote in 1972, on the 18th of November, to Madhavananda Prabhu in Amsterdam Temple. You're familiar with it. It's a very beautiful letter. And so I think it's very relevant for us, not just because of time and place, but also because of the contents. Let's hear the letter. Regarding the general state of affairs at the Amsterdam Temple, I can understand that there's some disturbance among you, but that's not to be taken very seriously. The real business is preaching work. And if there's full attention on this matter only, then all other businesses will automatically be successful. Fighting amongst ourselves is not at all good. But if our preaching work is neglected, or if we fall down in following the regulated principles, such as rising before 4, chanting 16 rounds like that, if these things are not strictly observed, then Maya will enter and spoil everything. My best advice to you is to strictly observe these things yourself and be the example. There is fault in everyone, and we may be ourselves subject to criticism. The best thing is to be above suspicion ourselves. Then if we see discrepancies and make suggestions, others will automatically respect and take action to rectify the matters. That is cooperation. We exist on such cooperation. Otherwise, the whole thing is doomed if we simply fight over some small thing. So try to organize things and preach together in this spirit, and that will please me very, very much. So Krishna told Kalia, Chalo Baba, you can't be here. Now, I always was disturbed by that, honestly. And there's not only that, there's a verse in the 3rd canto, Aho Bhakti Swam, there's a verse that begins with Aho Bhakti. How wonderful is Krishna, because he gave mercy to the sister of Bakasura, Putana, to Putana. And how fortunate is Kali. I'm thinking of a different verse, I'm sorry, I'm confused. How fortunate is Kalia. Kalia is one of the examples of great fortune. And I remember the first time we prepared some presentation about Kalia was at the Govardhan retreat some years ago, Govardhan. I was thinking about that. I thought, no. Driving someone out of Vrindavan, that's not my idea of mercy. I'm sorry, I just don't relate to that. And we've gone through different Puranas and different commentaries and things to contemplate the meaning of the pastime, but that one thing really bugged me, and I couldn't figure it out. So that morning, before our class, I went for a little japa walk around Giriraj, and I was praying, and a thought came to me. And I shared my understanding then of what it meant, why Krishna sent Kalia out of Vrindavan. But I still had a doubt. The devotees liked it, and I'll tell you in a moment. But later I went to visit Radha Govinda Maharaj. And I said, Maharaj, I just asked him the question. I didn't tell him my thought about it. Why? How would we understand that Krishna drove Kalia out of Vrindavan, and Kalia is supposed to be the example of the recipient of great mercy of Krishna? And to my delight, Maharaj gave the exact answer that I'd given. He's to the T. He said, in the same way that Srila Prabhupada brought devotees to Vrindavan and then told them, Chalo, you go back to Amsterdam, another name for hell. You go back to New York City, you go back to, and you preach. And so that's what Kalia did. Kalia went back to Ramanaka Dweep, which Srila Prabhupada said was Fiji. So what happened when Kalia went back to Ramanaka Dweep? There's no description. But it's a pretty obvious thing, I think. If you go to Vrindavan, let's pretend there's no internet and Facebook and WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff. But you go to Vrindavan for 2 months and you come back to Radhadesh, what does everybody say? Hey, it's been so long. What's going on in Vrindavan? Where have you been? How are you doing? That's what all friends do. So Kalia is from Ramanaka Dweep. Well, he goes back there. He's a homeboy there. And they're going to say, hey, Kalia, where have you been? What's Kalia going to say at that time? Sit down. I've got a story to tell you. There's a place called Vrindavan, and there's a wonderful boy, because Kalia had become a devotee. Now, another question comes. Ramanaka Dweep is kind of like a fast food place for one personality. Who is that? His name is Garuda. And he goes there every day for his lunch, and they offer. He's a non-vegetarian Vaishnava. You might not let him live in an ashram, I don't know. But he eats snakes and sometimes turtles and stuff like that. He's Krishna's carrier. He can do that. So Garuda comes regularly. So what's going to happen the next day when Garuda comes, and he says, hey, what's going on? There's a big assembly. Look, they're all sitting and listening. And Garuda lands. Oh, he's speaking Krishna Katha. Oh, that's the nature of Krishna Katha. It creates unity. It brings people together. Parasparana Kathanam Pavanam Bhagavad-yasa Mita Ratya Mita Stustir Nivita Mita Atmana. We were quoting this verse the other day, 11.330 Bhagavatam. We should learn how to associate with devotees by coming together and having Krishna Katha. It creates Vrindavan. And this was the answer that I gave to the devotees who would go over on retreat. And this is the comment that Radha Govinda Maharaj gave. Krishna wasn't sending him away from Vrindavan. He was telling him, you go create Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada wasn't condemning his disciples to eternal hell or something. Go away from Vrindavan. Don't come here. And he was telling them, you go create Vrindavan. And the devotees did. Jai Gopal Prabhu, thank you so much. You're one of the creators of this Vrindavan. And the other devotees, I'm so very, very grateful for this. So Kalia represents criticism. He's a black knight. But that same Kalia, there's another meaning of Kalia also. Iya, the suffix iya means to belong to. So another meaning of Kalia is one who belongs to Krishna. And that was his final situation. And that may be our situation. Maybe we're criticizing, but we should understand that criticism poisons everything, both in terms of society and individually. In the Mahabharata, in the Udyoga Parva, there's a conversation between Vidura and Dhritarashtra. And Vidura is trying to speak some common sense to Dhritarashtra. Look, you got to stop this. Don't criticize the Pandavas. Don't hate the Pandavas. Don't. Yastandvasti samandvasti yastananu samamanu. Prabhuji was citing this verse the other day in his class in Mahabharata. Krishna told Duryodhana, Yastandvasti samandvasti yastananu samamanu. Someone hates my devotees, they hate me. If someone loves my devotees, they love me. You hate the Pandavas, so you hate me. So this is Vrindavan. This is Vrindavan village. And Vidura tried to convince, Dhritarashtra tried to wake him up. And he told him, Aprosha parivada bhyam vihingsantya buddha buddhan vakta papamupada take shamamano vimuchate. This is Kalia in Vrindavan. An ignorant person, a Buddha, he tries to hurt another person. Akrosha parivada bhyam vihingsantya. He, by criticizing, saying bad things about him. But by doing that Vakta, that speaker, Vakta papamupada takes shamamana vimuchate. He takes the sins of the person he's criticizing. We should be very careful. And therefore, my Guru Maharaj used to say that criticism and chastisement is a work of Guru. It's a work of the temple president. It's a work of the parent. It's not my work. Well, in class we have some obligation to speak the truth. But I don't have a position like that. I should act according to my position. Asharadana vimuke prashinvati yuschopadesha siranama parada. The Padma Purana describes in the 10 offenses of the holy name, the 7th offense is to speak to someone who doesn't have faith in you. He's vimukha. He doesn't want to, he's turned away from you. He's not interested in what you have to say because you're not guru. That's the definition, very simply, of guru. Guru is someone I have faith in. And if they don't have faith in you and you try to preach to them, try to correct them, it just creates a disturbance in the society. And it's an offense to the holy name. So such a person who goes to criticize someone else, that other person, shamamano vimuchate, by forgiving that person, he's having a bad day. Probably ate too many chilies last night. Maybe he got in a quarrel with his wife. I understand. It's okay. He's a devotee. They forgive that person. Then whatever bad qualities you have, you become purified. And those bad qualities go to the critic. Not a very good thing to be the critic. Later on, in the same Udyoga Parva, a couple chapters later, the Dattatreya tells the Sadyas, Akroshyamano nakroshin manyar eva titikshataha akroshtaram nidahati sukritam chasha vindati. If you're being criticized, don't criticize back. Because the pain that you feel when you're being criticized, if you tolerate that, that pain will consume the critic. And whatever good things that critic has, whatever sukriti, akrostaram nidahati sukritam chashivindati, whatever sukriti that critic has, the good things will come to you. All your bad things will go to him, and all his good things will come to you. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati once said the critic is our friend. And this is the Vrindavan way to deal with it. Someone once asked me, actually a few times they've asked me, well, don't you feel bad then if the person, if you're giving him your bad qualities and they're giving you the good qualities? It's not that the devotees walk around thinking, yeah, come on, go ahead, do it, criticize me. I'm waiting for it. And I'm going to show how tolerant I am, and I'm going to take away your good qualities, and you'll take all my bad things. That's not the mood of a devotee. The mood of a devotee is amanina manadena. They give respect to others. They're very, very tolerant. What is the nature of the critics? The Brihanaradiya Puranam, the first canto, chapter 14, describes the nature of the critics. Papinam papagananam. Ganana is a very interesting. Ganana means to count. So a fault finder is literally papagananam. Means he's someone who has a little notepad and pen and he's writing down. Did you see? I saw him eating prasadam in the bathroom. Ha! I saw him wearing shoes in the wrong place. And they write down all the faults of the other person. That person's called papagananam. Papinam papagananam yakodoti naradamam. That person is the worst. He's naradam. He's the worst of all beings. Astitve, to your papa state. Now, if what they're saying is true, they're criticizing you, and it's actually true. Dorothea really ate an apple that wasn't offered first. My God. Now, if the criticism that you make is actually true, astitve, then to your papa state, then whatever sinful result that person should get from that doing that mistaken thing, you share the result. But mityatve, if it's not true, if it's actually a prasadam apple, it wasn't a boga apple that she ate. And mityatve, I'm criticizing her. I made a mistake, and it's not really true. Mityatve, dviguna nripa, then you get twice the result that would have come to her for eating boga. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in another letter, 1974, April 10th, he said, we should not criticize each other as Vaishnavas, because there's fault in everyone, and we may ourselves be subject to criticism. The best thing is to be above suspicion of self. This is a letter I was just reading. I want to read this other letter, excuse me. This kind of criticism and counter-criticism is not good. Those who are advanced devotees try to see only the good that other devotees are doing. Just as bees are attracted to honey, while flies are attracted to sores. So this is the mood of Vrindavan. Madhavananda Thakur sings this very nicely. You can check Hare Krishna response. Karmi Gyani Nicha Bhakta Naho Vitoya Anurakta Sudha Bhajane. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Raja Jana Raja Mata Tahe Habe Anugata Ese Paramata Dana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Karmi Gyani Micha Bhakta Naho Vitoya Anurakta Sudha Bhajanete Kodoman. We recite this verse every day. Very beautiful verse, huh? Naho Vitoya Habe Anurakta. Don't be attached. Anurakta. Don't be attached to who? Karmi Gyani Micha Bhakta. Don't be attached to what the karmis are doing. Did you hear about the presidential election? And this one said this. Don't be attached. Karmi Gyani, or what the Gyanis did. There's some Mayavadi person saying that. Don't worry about that. Micha Bhakta, the false devotees. What are they doing? This. And Madhavananda Thakur says, Sudha Bhajaneti Koroman. You should absorb your mind in pure bhajan. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he says that in one article, that those persons who are self-appointed reformers, trying to reform others, they can never accomplish their goal unless we first achieve reform within ourselves. And when we reform ourselves, then you're the perfect instrument of reform to others. It happens in a very natural way. But if we start to chastise everyone else before I'm purified, because charity begins at home, then it doesn't work. Brajajana Raja Mata. He says we should understand the mata. Mata means the opinion. Mata means the mood of the Brajajanas. What is the mood of the Brajajanas? They're not looking on Facebook to see who's bona fide and who's not. They're not looking into scandals and this and that. The queen of Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda, and Rohini, her sister, friend, one day a lady approached them. According to the it's a Bengali book, what's the name? Written by a disciple of Shamananda Prabhu, Dukhi Shamdas, I think his name was. Anyway, I don't remember the name. The book's not coming to mind. But it says there that Putana entered Braj, and she was crying. She said, she had a very beautiful form. She said, I had a baby. Yesterday my baby boy died. And all the ladies and everyone felt very sorry for her. And she said, my breasts hurt because I had milk. Are there any newborn babies here in Braj that I could give my milk to? And they said, well, yeah. Yashoda just gave birth to Krishna. And so Putana went there. Putana was a blood-drinking, baby-murdering monster. And she came to the house of Nanda Maharaj, and Mother Yashoda and Rohini thought that she was a great devotee. Yeah, come in. Our little boy is right here. Go right ahead. Doesn't sound very sophisticated to me. Sometimes devotees, they complain. You know those managers? Everybody always complains about the managers, but they don't want to become a manager. Those managers, they did this, they did that. Thank you, Krishna. Those managers did this and that, and they let this bad person in the temple, and they said, Madhavananda, don't you think that's bad? And I told them, I said, well, I'm not worried about that. I'm trying to figure out why Rohini and Yashoda let Putana in to see Krishna. That's a much bigger question to me than what the temple president did or this or that. And it doesn't end there. Vatsasura, terrible demon sent by Kamsa, shows up with the boys. And the boys think, yeah, it's a calf. It's one of Krishna's devotees. The boys didn't recognize. Pralambasura was sent again by Kamsa, And he arrived at Jiva Goswami, describes in very beautiful ways, very, very deep what he says, that Krishna, when he saw Pralamba in the form of a cowherd boy, it's the moment of truth. He's like the original spy. You're trying, is my Russian accent work? Are they going to figure out I'm actually a CIA agent and here I am entering into the Kremlin or whatever? Is my Russian accent going to work? Huh? So Pralamba was there and Krishna greeted him, Yo Bhadra! He addressed him as Bhadra. Now Bhadra is a very beautiful word. It has a number of different meanings in Sanskrit. Bhadra is an auspicious kind of address to a friend. It means someone auspicious. Yo Bhadra! And that's how the boys took it. Yo Bhadra! And Krishna told them, hey, you're my, what is the Sanskrit? You're my pranabandhu. You're my very dear friend. You're so close to me. I don't ever want you to go out of my sight. That's what Krishna told the Pralamba, Jiva Goswami says when he arrived. And the boys thought, yeah, he must be a really good boy. He must be one of the... Now the word Bhadra has other meanings also. Bhadra also means a false pretender. It means an actor. So he's saying, Yo Bhadra! it has some meanings. Externally it seems like, oh, I fooled him. He thinks that I'm auspicious, but Krishna's really saying, I know you're just an actor. You're just dressed up like something. But the boys accepted him. And even Balaram accepted him. And Jiva Goswami says that when finally Pralamba was carrying Balaram away, then Balaram gets pretty heavy. Guru means heavy, and Balaram's Adi Guru. He started becoming so heavy that he was confused. And Pralamba then had to manifest his original form. And it made Balaram confused, excuse me. And then at that time, Balaram was looking at Krishna, and Krishna kind of winked at him and kind of went like, oh, yeah, okay. Boom. And Balaram smashed his head in. Even Balaram. Because the Brij Basis are so simple. Rupa Goswami and Lalita Madhav, when Shankachuta showed up, Shankachuta was sent on a very, very evil mission. Kamsa was told there's a really, really beautiful woman. She's like the original Miss Universe. And her name is Radha. Oh, I want her. And so he sent Shankachuta. You go get her. And Shankachuta came and grabbed Radharani by the hair and started dragging her away. Now, when Shankachuta first came into Braj, Vrindadevi is telling Purnamasi, as I recall, Vrindadevi, who is that? And Purnamasi, oh, it must be Suryadev. Come to worship Radharani. They thought that Shankachuta was a devotee. So think of that. Putana, Vatsasura, Pralambasura, and Shankachuta. They really got it wrong every time. So what's with these Brij Basis? They need to read Facebook a little more, right? They need to read, some stuff on the internet, some Ridvik sites or something, all the bad stuff about everybody. No, the Brij Basis are simple. We may be cheated. If I try to use my Panchagyan Indriya, my 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, which are known as gunas, are the modes of nature, are also ropes. The ropes which bind me to this material world. If I try to use those knowledge-acquiring senses to ascertain who's good and who's bad, I'll fail every time. The Brij Basis are not depending on their senses. They're so simple. And when that terrible witch comes into Braj, they see, oh, it's a devotee. She's here to do service for my Gopal. Isn't that nice? He's right over here. Go right ahead. And they think the same thing about Vatsasura and Pralambasura and Shankachuta. Because they're simple. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. We don't have to judge everyone. But what we do have to do, Brajajana Rajya Mata, we have to accept the mood of the Brij Basis. Their mood is very, very simple, very, very focused. Ekantik. Vyavasyatmika buddhi, ekeha kurunanda. They're one-pointed, taking shelter of Krishna. And Krishna protects them. They don't have a problem. They don't have to worry. They can just accept everybody. Because Krishna will take care. Now that doesn't mean that someone shouldn't chastise someone who's abused children or devotees or done some evil thing in our society, we can't imitate the Brijbasis. We have to have management. There has to be chastisement also. But in our chastisement, we should take shelter of Krishna. Then the person who's being chastised, there'll be some hope for them. Maybe they can become rectified. Because as devotees, our aspiration is to be the servants of Nityananda Prabhu, who's Adoshadarshi. He doesn't see fault. Not that we want to be servants of Yamaraj. My aspiration, I want to become a Yamaduta. And I'm going to be a Papagana, and I'm going to write down everybody's fault. That disturbs Vrindavan. And this is the fault of Kalia. So if we want to establish Vrindavan, we have to drive out Kalia. Brajajanara Jaymata say Anugata. We have to follow the Brijbasi's mood. Se Paramatatvadan. Narottam Thakur says, this is the real wealth. Not your sophistication, how many pages of faults you've written about different devotees and how much fault you've seen in this and that. And but be like the Brijbasis. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he wrote a poetic translation of this stanza from Narottam Thakur. Please listen. Be not attached to karmis, gyanis, and bhaktas false, but pure unalloyed bhajan you should always endorse. Follow principles which Braj folk adopt, these being valued truths to be kept aloft. So, as we were mentioning the other day, in a positive way, Srila Prabhupada's mission to establish Vrindavan villages, it's my personal observation, devotees can please correct me if you see something else, but I see 4 aspects, 4 elements, or 4 tiers of Srila Prabhupada's behavior with the devotees. The first is love, the second is trust, the third is responsibility, and the fourth is empowerment. And Srila Prabhupada loved the devotees, and the symptom of love is you trust them. If you really love somebody, then the symptom of that lust is trust. Love is trust. The symptom of trust is responsibility. And Srila Prabhupada did that. He gave responsibility to these devotees. One devotee had just gotten out of jail for distributing drugs. They hadn't even read the entire Bhagavad Gita yet. They didn't hardly know anything. They were just a bunch of hippies. And Prabhupada sent them to New York City. 6 devotees. Janaki, Jamuna, Malati, Gurudas, Shamasundar, Mukunda. They were heroes. They didn't have material qualification. They weren't big pundits. They didn't come from a very pure background or anything. But Srila Prabhupada loved them. Srila Prabhupada trusted them. And the symptom of that trust was he gave them the greatest responsibility. You take my movement to London. And Prabhupada's godbrothers, his big sannyasi godbrothers couldn't do it. As Prabhupada quoted one poem once about Hanuman and how when Hanuman jumped to Lanka, how the reaction of the other monkeys, big monkey, what is it? Big monkey, big belly, Salem jumping, melancholy. The big monkeys with big bellies. But when they see Hanuman jumping to Lanka, melancholy, they become very sad. So we shouldn't be like that. We should empower other persons. And this is the nature of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the place that has no envy. And this Krishna conscious movement is about empowerment. Let me read a letter from Srila Prabhupada that he wrote to Gaurasundar Prabhu. This is from the 26th of August, 1972. Listen to what Prabhupada said. And Gaurasundar Prabhu was a wonderful devotee. He started Krishna consciousness in Hawaii along with Govinda Dasi. But his background also wasn't born in a perfect, pure Brahmin family. But anyway, Prabhupada wrote him a letter, and Prabhupada said, without your good help, I could not have done anything. So practically, you can take all the credit for spreading this Krishna consciousness movement and fulfilling the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Prabhupada's words, says, very new disciple. I couldn't have done anything without your help. You did everything. So you should take credit for spreading Mahaprabhu's movement. If there's some incident and I claim that no one is cooperating with me, or that no one will work with me, that is my defect, not theirs. If I claim, why they don't recognize me? Why isn't everybody cooperating with me? Prabhupada says, that's my defect, not their defect. The Vaishnava devotee must think like this. We should not find fault with others and criticize and go away. That is not the Vaishnava way. Better, we should always be willing to offer all respects to others and consider them as our superiors. In the beginning of Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about the foundation of the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he speaks about Jagannath Puri Dham, how it's Nilachal, and the temple of Jagannath is there, and how Jagannath lives there, and how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna came there in the form of a sannyasi. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Nija Bhakta Vrindaloy, Nija Kopataru Hoy, Krishna Prema Dena Sarva Jane Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nana Mate Bhakta Muke, Bhakta Kata Sune Suke, Jiva Siksha Dena Suyatane Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. There in that place in Jagannath Puri, Nija Bhakta Vrindavana, with his devotees. You can't separate the Lord from his devotees. You can't separate, please forgive me, but you can't separate Srila Prabhupada from his disciples. Sometimes we may see some fault in the Prabhupada disciples. Don't see it. Prabhupada loved them. I can tell you stories, persons' names I don't even want to mention. There's some very bad things. But Prabhupada cried when one such person who created so much problems in the society, who claimed that now I'm in charge of everything, and started preaching bogus philosophy and telling the devotees to cut off their sikas and not wear dhotis. And later, Brahmananda got a little angry with him, spit in his face. And he left with his boyfriend. And I don't think they were gambling, but as far as I know, they weren't following any other regulated principles. And when he came back to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada cried. He said, "You're always my son." Now I may, in my sophisticated nature, find some fault with that devotee, but Prabhupada loves him. And we may find some fault with this devotee or that devotee, but they're the fruits of Srila Prabhupada's preaching. And we should always respect it. Satsvarup Maharaj came to Jagannath Puri some years ago. I cried. I told him, it was a very unusual thing because he hasn't been traveling for years. But he came to Puri, and I told him, I said, "Maharaj, I never had the chance to meet Srila Prabhupada, but I feel like I'm getting to meet him through you." And that's why God created Prabhupada disciples. So that we can get some chance to associate with Prabhupada through you. It's very, very important. And that's why I've been very uncomfortable speaking here today. Go back to this verse now. So Mahaprabhu, with his associates, not alone, Srila Prabhupada not alone, but with his associates, with his devotees, who were like Kopataru, who were like wish-fulfilling trees, Krishna Prema Dena Sarvaja, gave Krishna Prema to everyone. Not just Srila Prabhupada by himself, but Prabhupada with his disciples. Nana Mate Bhakta Muke Bhakta Kata Sunisuke. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Bhakta Rup. He comes in the mood of a devotee. He did an amazing thing. And this is the foundation of the Hare Krishna movement. He's God. He knows everything. He knows all the Vedas and everything. But Nana Mate Bhakta Muke Bhakta Kata Sunisuke. He sat down and listened to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He said, "Would you please teach me about Mukti Tattva?" He sat down with Haridas Thakur. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he said, "Would you please teach me about the glories of my name?" And he listened to Haridas Thakur. He heard Sadhya Sadhana Tattva from Roy Ramananda. He heard Rasa Tattva from the mouth of Rupa Goswami. Through his devotees, he spoke through them. Because this is the nature of Vrindavan. There's no envy. It's a movement of empowerment. And this is Srila Prabhupada's movement. And we should always remember this. We were mentioning this the other day. Let me think for a moment here. There was a bumper sticker that I saw in America that said, old age and treachery will always overcome youth and skill. That's not the mood of Vrindavan. The mood of Vrindavan is that when we see young people, we empower them. We give them some opportunity. I'll give you a little example from my own personal experience. A few years ago, some Gurukula teacher brought a group of young girls to Jagannath Puri and asked me to take them around in parikrama. And these are little girls. I mean, some of them were like 5, 6 years old. I think the oldest was maybe 12. And we took them to the temple Tota Gopinath, and we did our stuff, told some stories and whatever. And as we're walking together away from there, one of the little girls kind of ran up to me and she said, Prabhuji, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. And I stopped and I said, no. And her jaw dropped and she became a little, oh God, I'm in trouble now. I said, no, you should be better than me. Because you're coming from a devotee family and I'm not. You should be better than me. You should be more than me. And when I told that to that little girl, I'll never forget the look on her face. She was empowered. And that's what Krishna consciousness is about. Not that we try to take some position for ourselves, but we empower others, just as Srila Prabhupada did. I want to finish with a personal story, how Srila Prabhupada is present for me. I first came in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books in 1970, 69 or 70. I was a young boy, 9 or 10 years old, and we used to play in some abandoned house, and some hippies had put some pictures from Krishna book on the wall. We were mentioning this the other day. But I couldn't understand. Paradoxically, I don't know if it's a paradox, but somehow, although at that time in Colorado, in America where I was living, probably the nearest vegetarian restaurant was San Francisco or New York, and I'd never met a vegetarian, I'd never read anything about vegetarian, but somehow I became a vegetarian around that same time when I saw those pictures from Srila Prabhupada's books, somehow. Anyway, but some years later, in 1982, I moved into the temple in Los Angeles, and it was very bittersweet. Because Pushpadanta Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, is our Bhakta leader, and he used to take us to Cheviot Hills Park. And he would say, this is where Prabhupada walked, and we can listen to this recording of Prabhupada here with his disciples. And then tomorrow we're going to Venice Beach. And at Venice Beach, Prabhupada was walking there, and his devotees were there. And then they take us to Prabhupada's room, and we see everything there. And then the worst thing, they have these Prabhupada festivals, which are like a knife in the heart. You hear all these wonderful stories, and devotees cry, and they speak about Prabhupada. And we're sitting here thinking, man, see, I just missed out. I could have been here. I was 17 years old when Srila Prabhupada left. I didn't know. I really blew it. And so we were thinking like that. And in my personal life in this society, some problems came. Some big problems in my life. And at that point, I moved back to Los Angeles. I started going on a book distribution again, which was my old service. And every day I started going to Srila Prabhupada's room and crying when no one was there. And I would just cry buckets of tears. I said, Prabhupada, I need a guru. My guru left. But I need someone like you. I can't accept anyone else. One of those days, I went across the street. There's a green building in Los Angeles, for those of you who've been there. And I went to visit a very senior disciple, Srila Prabhupada, 26 Second Avenue senior, very, very senior. Somehow that devotee had some affection for me. And I went in and I found there was 3 Prabhupada disciples there. And somehow, I don't know if I'd said something, but somehow they understood that I had this desire to find a guru. And all 3 of them joined together and jumped on me, just started preaching to me, you don't want to do that. they're all bogus. One of those persons told me one time, he said, all the sannyasis in ISKCON are bogus. He said, I know. He said, none of them chant 16 rounds. None of the sannyasis. He said, I know. I was a sannyasi and I never chanted 16 rounds. He told me, and I'm a very wicked person. I couldn't control myself. I said, well, I'm sorry to disagree, but I know one bona fide person. He said, yeah, who? I said, you. And he literally took 2 steps back, like I was going to do some judo or something. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you're on such an elevated platform that you can ascertain that nobody's bona fide, it must mean you're bona fide. So, phew, what a relief. I'm so happy somebody's bona fide. So we were in the room there, and they were preaching, and it was very difficult. Really, if I told you names later on, you would understand what I'm saying. Even senior Prabhupada disciples can't speak up. And who am I? I'm just a little child in comparison to them. For 1 hour, they were preaching to me, and I'm just kind of like this. What can I say? And I was afraid, because I finally had some faith that I need to associate with a sadhu. I need a sadhu. And now they're coming and they're speaking this way, trying to hurt my faith. What can I do? And so I was just quiet. And for 1 hour, all 3 of them were former sannyasis. For 1 hour, they all preached to me. And then I was quiet. And finally, after 1 hour, one of them said, so, what do you think? Oh boy. And then I had to look really deep in my heart. And I told them, I said, well, for 7 years, after my guru left, and left the movement, I've taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada. I said, but I'm sorry, I have to tell you, I'm not satisfied. Because I want what you have. And I started pointing to each one of them. I knew them all 3 very well. I said, Prabhupada told you to go to such and such place. Prabhupada gave you this instruction. And you, Prabhupada told you to go to this place and this and this. And I want that. I want a personal instruction from Srila Prabhupada. Maybe he'll come in a dream, that's fine. But I want that. I want a personal relationship like you had, where Prabhupada embraced you, where Prabhupada praised you, where Prabhupada chastised you, where Prabhupada gave you personal time. And I'm not going to be satisfied with anything less than that. And when I said that, they became quiet. And finally one of them said, you're very sincere, Prabhu. I'm sure you'll get what you want. This is my conviction. And my Guru Maharaj used to say there's no cause for despondency. It's not that Prabhupada was the last pure devotee, and now Krishna's broke, and there's no more. And Prabhupada failed, and you're just out of luck. You know, Prabhupada disciples, they're really fortunate, and the rest of us just, well, good luck. That's all we can say to you. My Guru Maharaj once, I'll read you a little conversation with Govinda Maharaj. This is in Bhubaneswar in March of 1993. Devotee asked him, Maharaj, why are there so many conflicting ideas for the ISKCON movement? Govinda Maharaj replied, bah, stop it. There's no conflict. No conflict, no conflict. You're a mad fellow. There's no conflict, no confusion. It's all clear, Baba. Conflict and confusion are within you. Therefore, you see conflict. If you put on yellow glasses, everything looks yellow. A man sees the reflection of his mind. In your mind is conflict and confusion, and therefore you see it outside. When Hanuman went to Ravan's capital, Lanka, he was extremely angry because the demon Ravan had kidnapped his master's wife, Sita. Out of anger, Hanuman's eyes were red hot. Ravan had kept Sita in a very lovely garden called the Ashokvan. Ashok means no lamentation. That garden was extremely beautiful. Ravan had brought so many varieties of nice flowers, fruits, and birds from the heavenly planets. In that garden were many wonderful ponds and springs. Hanuman went there, but he saw no variety. Hanuman saw everything red. because anger was inside him. His eyes were red hot. Do you understand? Are your doubts clear? The devotee said, no. Gorgavinama said, no. Why not? And the devotee said, for example, when Srila Prabhupada was directly present, everything in ISKCON was under his direction. And Gorgavinda Maharaj replied, he's still directing, but you can't see it. You have no vision. It will take time for you to understand. Be patient and wait. All these problems are inside you. The conflict is within you. Therefore, you see such things outside. So, we want to establish Srila Prabhupada's Vrindavan villages. This is Prabhupada's desire. Not to create a corporate entity or make a business or make money or this or that. But his purpose is to establish Krishna consciousness in the world. And we should have faith. Sadhu is always there. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in one article he said, unless one develops faith, if you don't have faith, 3 symptoms of someone who doesn't have faith, he speaks in. Unless one develops faith, one can neither see a pure devotee nor the Supreme Lord, in 3 symptoms. They will simply indulge in envious, violent, or blasphemous activities. If you don't have faith, pick your choice. Which one? You want to be envious, you want to be violent, you want to be blasphemous, or a combination of the 3. If we don't have faith, we don't have faith in Prabhupada. Prabhupada saved these devotees. Prabhupada empowered them. We should have faith. He's Prabhupada. What does Prabhupada mean? I'm going to say something a little harsh. Please forgive me. He's Prabhupada. Prabhupada literally means Prabhupada. He's the person whose pada, who's at his feet. All the Prabhus are there. So don't cut off his feet. If we say there's no Prabhus, and he's the last one, then aren't you cutting off the feet of Prabhupada? And Prabhupada, the word Prabhupada has no meaning. We can't separate Prabhupada from his devotees. In the Padma Purana, in the 7th canto, there's a beautiful verse. My Guru Maharaj, sometimes he used to say, there's proof that there's a pure devotee present. What is the proof? Proof is the sun is shining. Proof is there's oxygen. Proof is there's water. Proof is this material world exists. That's the proof. There must be a pure devotee. Well, that's a nice kind of quaint thing. And then later I was reading in Padma Purana and I came across this verse. Samsara Vaishnava Adino, Deva Vaishnava Palitaha, Aham Cha Vaishnava Adinas, Tasmat Shreshtas Cha Vaishnavaha. This is spoken by Krishna. He's a great authority. Krishna says, Samsara Vaishnava Adino, without the presence of a pure Vaishnava, this material existence could not exist. It's the purpose of this world for Krishna's pastimes with his devotees and to deliver the living entities. If there's no pure devotees, then this universe could not exist. Samsara Vaishnavadya, Deva Vaishnava Palitaha. That the Devatas, they're nourished by the Vaishnavas. If there's no pure Vaishnava, then there would be no sun, no Suryadev. There would be no Agni, there would be no Vayu, there would be no any of the different elements that we find. And Krishna then says, what to speak of them? Aham cha Vaishnavadinas. I'm dependent on the presence of the Vaishnava. We have proof that there must be some pure devotees here in this community. The proof is that Krishna is here in the form of Gopinath. The proof is that Krishna is here in the form of service of Srila Prabhupada. Krishna is here in the form of his holy name. Now that pure devotee may be the temple president of the GBC, or it might be a housewife. It might be a small child. But there must be some pure devotee. Otherwise it couldn't go on. Tasmat Shreshtas Cha Vaishnava. Therefore Krishna says the Vaishnavas are the best. So, in conclusion then, on this day we want to remember Srila Prabhupada's desire to create Vrindavan villages. And we want to contemplate what that means, how we can establish a Vrindavan village. So, thank you all very much for listening to me. I was told to finish by 10:30 and it's 10:24. So I'm sorry, I really wanted to hear Jai Gopal Prabhu or some of the other devotees to share some of the realizations. Sometimes, Prabhupada disciples, sometimes they tell me, "Oh, Prabhu, I never really had much association." Yeah, but you went out on book distribution every day for 40 years. You went out on Harinam for 12 hours a day. You have some experience. And I'm just so grateful. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And anyway, we're speaking this today. I'm a very impertinent person, impudent person, to speak in front of these senior devotees. But I'm hoping maybe it'll bring some smile to your face. And if there's anything we said is good, it's because of their blessings.
You did wonderful.
Could you give him a microphone, please?
To be honest, I was very touched. I didn't sleep very much, so maybe a little emotional. But I was very touched at many occasions during your lecture. Krishna crying in order to revive his friends. That very much made me think of Prabhupada. His tears of compassion, how he actually saved so many of us. I remember also Govinda Maharaj. He was here in the beginning of the 80s, because I was trying to figure out whose disciple are you.
I was here with him in 1994.
I didn't do any research, so I was just listening to you during class, and I even saw some resemblance, physical. And Maharaj would be here for a few days. I had wonderful conversations with him, and we went all over Radhadesh, the forest and the park, etc. But when he would sit down to lecture, time was absent, and it would just go on and on and on and on. But there was never any fatigue for myself to listen, and I had the same experience with you, that you're so much sharing your realizations and actually bringing the mood of Vrindavan very close. You can almost touch it. So I'd just like to thank you very much for all the... of course, I've invested time too, many, many years of my life, and I'm grateful, but you have invested so much time in study and trying to understand and share it with the devotees. So, what I can say is, as a Prabhupada disciple, maybe we are special, maybe not, but we are also continuing because of the inspiration and dedication of these devotees who are active now in the society. So I'd just like to thank all of you for who you are and your dedication to Srila Prabhupada's movement. Because it keeps me alive.
Thank you, Jacob. You know, when you go to a new place and you don't know everybody, you're always kind of nervous, especially if there's going to be a bunch of senior people there. Oh my God, I'm going to get in big trouble. I'm always worried. But coming here, this place has been done because of the hard work that you've done, and the Sutama Prabhu and others. You've given your life for this. And this is Vrindavan, and I feel very, very grateful for all the devotees here that you kind of let this poor dog bark a little bit, and let his tail make a little bit of noise. Thank you.
As I say every day, at least 10 times, coincidence does not exist. So by your presence here, we're blessed by, you're clearly a Rupanuga, a follower of Rupa Goswami, because he's stressing the point how important enthusiasm is. So if we have enthusiasm, then we get that as a sign of getting the taste of real Krishna consciousness, not merely theoretical, but experiencing Krishna consciousness with the heart and sharing it with the devotees. So I'm also completely inspired by your presence, and not only your presence, the presence of all the devotees in Radhadesh, which I consider truly my family. Each day again I wake up full of inspiration and gratitude, definitely. all things Srila Prabhupada, Patitapara.
I'm just a Bhadra. You say, oh, so auspicious, but I'm just an actor. That's my position. Anybody else has anything? Somebody should chastise me, make me feel better.
I just wanted to mention when Srila Prabhupada left us in 77, then my world went black. But then because there was my senior godbrothers, they continued things. And we had Bhagavan in our zone. And I had never served Prabhupada personally. I just got my name and made a bead bag. And that's most association I had with Srila Prabhupada. But then when Bhagavan started to take charge, I got to serve Prabhupada through him. And I was so enthusiastic. So I got to serve Prabhupada, make a kurta, cook, and do so many things. And I was thinking, I'm doing this for Prabhupada through Bhagavan. So I was very, very grateful. And sometimes we blame them for giving up. But actually, I think we're also to blame because they were, we wanted Srila Prabhupada back. And we wanted to see Srila Prabhupada in them. And that was too much for them to carry. But I'm still very grateful that they tried, because that kept me in the movement. And then even when they left, it was a bit hard. But by then, I got, somehow we continued by Krishna's mercy. But I think still they sacrifice a lot for us to keep the movement going. So I thought something to mention.
Wow, what a powerful comment. Thank you very much, Makuja Basini Mataji. I think the same similar way. My parents were not vegetarians. My mother started chanting jop at the end, a little bit. But how can I criticize them? They're my parents. They did so much for me. I should have gratitude for them. And for these early devotees who may have had problems, and maybe some of them made big mistakes even. Maybe even they hurt people. And we should understand their feelings of pain, and we should be sympathetic to their suffering and the abuse they went through. But at the same time, I can't find it in my heart to just try to wipe out and ignore all the wonderful things they did. Because I think Prabhupada, he saw those things. He appreciated it. And who the hell am I? Yeah, thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you very much for being so kind to me. And Krishna Kunja. I'm grateful. Anybody else with anything?
Meaningless personal thing, and moment of gratitude. So I just turned up by synchronicity or coincidence last night. I'd had some issues with someone that's very close to me in my life, and I received a lot of heavy criticism, which was expressed with deep emotion, and I found myself lying on the floor beneath them and genuinely thanking them for what they were giving me in this form of criticism. I don't know exactly. I was just drawn to thank them for this very deep criticism. And then when you were talking about how criticism interacts between people, I can see that, but also another extra dimension in that in my relationship with this person, I've not been perfect. And this criticism that I'm being given is also a gift to relieve me also slightly of my imperfections. It's like, thank you for giving me what I've given you wrongly in the past, you're now giving me, and it's like a transaction. So I'm really grateful to hear you talk about the nature of criticism and how energy and karma goes between people when you're doing that. And I really enjoyed your talk, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. One thing, let's remember, let's not misuse this principle either and tell people, Prabhu, you're suffering, you're abused, but it's your own karma. and you should just tolerate it and just smile and forgive the other person. That's very evil. And we can't do that. Not everybody's able to give up those feelings. Just like we gave an example the other day, if you eat some food that's gone off, it's rotten, then your body, what happens, your body wants to vomit. Your body wants to have loose motions and get that out. And so in the same way, when we've gone through some abuse or something, we need to get it out. We need to get that toxin out. But the proper place is with someone who has a heart, and who understands our pain and will be there with us and not leave us and not go start telling everybody about what we went through or something. It's required. So these kind of statements we should apply to ourselves. They're meant for that, not for applying to other people. Just a thought. Thank you, Prabhu. Anything from anybody else? Okay, wow, I survived. I was terrified to come and speak in front of you guys. Thank you all so very much. Srila Prabhupada ke, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda ke, Gopremanande, Vanchakalpatarubhischa, Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo, Ananda Kodi Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krsna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.